What can you do in Warsaw in an hour and a half? Well, you can walk around the old town, or the Mokotowskie field, or Łazienki Królewskie, or go to a nice restaurant. Well, you can also visit all the 36 stations of the Warsaw Metro. Well, that's precisely what I have done. Ale mam pecha. Okay, but what does it mean, visit all the metro stations? I took some inspiration from the Tube Challenge, or the Subway Challenge as you might know it. But since I'm the first one to do something like that in Warsaw, I have a little bit more freedom when it comes to the rules. I have decided to go with the following definition. I must stop within the confines of every station. Some versions of this challenge need you to exit the vehicle, but I decided that's dangerous, so that means I start the timer the moment the train departs, because I am still stopped at the station at the very beginning. Now, about that stopping requirement, let's imagine there is a train that passes through a station without stopping. I wouldn't really count that as visiting the station. Moreover, let's assume that Świętokrzyska is a single station, and well, basically any station that operates multiple lines has to be visited just once. Since the metro ticket also applies to other forms of public transport, let's assume we can use those two in Zone 1, and we can walk, obviously. Now that we've got the rules covered, let's go over to the strategy. It actually took me some time to figure out the strategy, because it's not as obvious as it seems. Okay, let's say that we start at Kabaty, go to Młociny, and then we realize that we have to go back to Świętokrzyska, and then we go to, let's say, Bemowo, and then we have to return to Świętokrzyska again, only to be able to cross the Vistula River. If we divide the whole metro system into basically 4 segments, so Młociny Świętokrzyska, Kabaty Świętokrzyska, Bemowo Świętokrzyska, and Trocka Świętokrzyska, then we soon realize that we have to cross 2 of those segments at least twice. Or do we? Well, actually no, because there exists a shortcut from Bemowo to Młociny. The tram number 74, which allows us to go from Bemowo to Młociny in just 22 minutes, instead of the 40 if you decided to take the metro and transfer at Świętokrzyska. That means we can cover the whole distance, starting at Trocka, then transferring to a tram at Bemowo, and then getting back into the metro at Młociny. There's one more thing. Who says that we have to go this way? What about the other way, from Kabaty to Trocka? Well, I decided to start at Trocka and end at Kabaty, and here's why. There's basically 3 main reasons. So the first one is train frequency. At peak hours from Młociny, trains depart every 2 or 3 minutes, and from Bemowo every 3 or 4. Here is a top-down view of the Młociny station. This way we have Bemowo, and the blue arrows represent the exits or the entrances. If we start at Kabaty, we can go like this, but then the tram has to potentially wait before it can get off the roundabout. We can also shave off a few seconds, overtaking it, going like this. We could also go like this through these 3 zebra crossings, but then we have an issue because in Poland we drive on the right, so it's better to go counterclockwise so as to synchronize with the stoplights. Otherwise, if we go from Bemowo, then there's no issue and we cover a shorter distance. And the third thing, let's go over to the satellite view of Bemowo station. It's an old image, so I had to draw the entrances. The Młociny station is to the north. If we go from Młociny, then the tram potentially has to wait at the lights before we can get off. So that's my strategy. I start at Trocka, then at Bemowo I take the 74, and then at Młociny I get back into the metro. If you haven't already, turn English subtitles on.
Właśnie przy stacji Trocka jest 14:15. Za niedługo będę tam schodził i czatował na najlepszy pociąg. Jest tylko taki mały problem, bo okazuje się, że dzisiaj zegary ogólnie nie działają w pociągach metra, więc nie wiem, jak to będę śledził. Mam nadzieję, że ten, do którego wsiądzie, będzie miał działające.
It turns out that the clocks work perfectly fine in all the remaining trains, but, well, I went down onto the platform and I had written down all the perfect times that the trains would have to go so that I can barely get onto the tram, and I decided to basically take the worst metro train possible because it was 2 minutes early and the next one would be 2.5 minutes late. But, well, once I have decided, there was no going back. Once I got onto the train, it was pretty simple. I passed through the stations Targówek Mieszkaniowy, Szwedzka, Dworzec Wileński, Stadion Narodowy, Centrum Nauki Kopernik, Nowy Świat Uniwersytet, Świętokrzyska, Rondo ONZ, Rondo Daszyńskiego, Płocka, Młynów, Księcia Janusza and Ulrychów. Well, once I started getting close to Bemowo, that's when things started to get interesting. This is the moment it becomes apparent why I chose the first door. I was waiting to get off and run for the tram. I had already known that I wouldn't make it for the previous tram, but just in case that it was delayed, I decided to go for it.
Nie dość, że nie zdążyłem na poprzedni tramwaj, to jeszcze następny jest opóźniony 5 minut.
Well, at least that gave me time to calculate how much time I had left.
40 plus 22, no to jest godzina 2 minuty, jeszcze mi zostały.
Despite knowing that I wouldn't get the perfect time, I got onto the tram and kept going. The last key element was to get from the tram into the metro. I got really unlucky though, as I saw cars taking off as the lights had just changed. I quickly turned around to see that the lights behind me were all green and the way to the other entrance was free.
Następna stacja Wawrzyszek.
All I had left to do was sit and pass through the following stations.
Wawrzyszek, Ardylan, Włodowiec, Marimon, Plac Wilson, Nowy Dęb, Ratusz, Arsenał, Świętokrzyska.
Again, though according to the rules, I could have skipped it.
Politechnika, Pole Mokotowskie,
Rasławicka,
Lanos, Ursyn, Stokos, Imieniu, Natori, Tobacco.
and that's where my journey ended. I managed to get a time of 1 hour 34 minutes 30 seconds. However, judging by how long I had to wait for the tram, I could have probably saved like 8 minutes. I'm still really satisfied with the run. In the end, I was recording the clock, waiting for it to tick off to the next minute, so that I could synchronize my time, because my camera stopped working midway through.
Jak tyknie na 16 dzień, to będę wiedział co do sekundy.
There's a link to the full video in the description, and in the description of that video, there is a link to a Google map that contains the data from the GPS on my phone. I think next time I won't capture everything, I'll probably just take photos of every station and record the transfers, because my phone was dying after this attempt. That's probably not the only speedrun I will ever do in Warsaw. I'm interested in visiting all the train station, but that's for another time.